Today, we take a deep look into one of the most complicated and controversial international relationships of the modern era, the relationship between the United States of America and Venezuela. For decades, Venezuela was one of the richest countries in Latin America, a nation blessed with enormous natural resources, and especially oil. But today, Venezuela is better known for political crisis, economic collapse, migration, and global tension. And in the center of many of these issues stands its difficult, strategic, and often confrontational relationship with the United States. In this documentary, we will explore how this relationship was built, how it broke apart, and how it continues to shape politics, economics, and people's lives both inside Venezuela, across Latin America, and around the world. Let's begin. Part 1. The beginning of a powerful relationship. To understand the present, we must understand the past. In the early 20th century, Venezuela discovered something that would forever change its destiny: oil. The land beneath Venezuela contained one of the richest oil deposits in human history. Over time, it was discovered that Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves in the entire world. And in a world increasingly powered by oil, that made Venezuela extremely important. From the 1920s onward, American oil companies entered Venezuela. They built infrastructure. They invested. They drilled. They exported Venezuelan oil to fuel American cars, factories, airplanes, and industry. For decades, Venezuela became one of the United States' most important energy partners. Oil wealth transformed Venezuela into one of the richest countries in Latin America. Its cities grew, its industries developed. Standards of living increased. For many Venezuelans, life improved dramatically. The United States and Venezuela were not just trading partners. They were deeply connected economically and politically. But beneath this success, tension slowly built. Many Venezuelans began asking questions. Why are foreign companies controlling our resources? Why isn't this wealth fully benefiting Venezuelan citizens? Shouldn't Venezuela control its own destiny? These questions planted the seeds of change. Part 2. Nationalization and growing independence. By the 1970s, a powerful idea was spreading across Venezuela: nationalism. Leaders believed Venezuela's oil should belong to Venezuela, not to foreign corporations. And so, Venezuela made a historic decision. It nationalized its oil industry. Foreign companies lost control. The Venezuelan state gained full authority over oil production and revenue. This moment gave Venezuela strength. Oil money began funding education, healthcare infrastructure, social development programs. But nationalization also created a new problem. Venezuela now depended almost entirely on oil. Oil wasn't just part of the economy. It was the economy. When oil prices were high, Venezuela prospered. When oil prices dropped, the economy suffered heavily. Still, despite the economic risks, the United States and Venezuela continued their relationship. Trade remained strong. Diplomatic ties continued, but a political storm was forming, and its name was Hugo Chavez. Part 3. The rise of Hugo Chavez. In 1999, Venezuelan politics changed forever. A former military officer named Hugo Chavez was elected president of Venezuela. Chavez promised revolution, independence, social equality, a government for the poor, and resistance to what he called U.S. imperialism. He positioned himself as a champion of the people and a challenger to American influence. Under Chavez, Venezuela moved politically to the left. It formed closer ties with Cuba, Russia, China, Iran. Meanwhile, relations with the United States began to deteriorate rapidly. Chavez frequently criticized U.S. foreign policy. He accused Washington of trying to control Latin America. He spoke powerfully, emotionally, and often aggressively on the international stage. Supporters saw Chavez as a hero. They believed he gave a voice to the poor and challenged unfair global systems. Critics saw Chavez as a dangerous populist. They believed he weakened institutions, limited democratic freedoms, and centralized power. But one thing is certain, the Chavez era completely reshaped US-Venezuela relations. Diplomatic trust collapsed, political confrontation increased, and the relationship entered an entirely new phase. Part 4. Power, Politics, and Polarization. The Chavez government used oil revenue to fund massive social programs. These programs built homes, provided subsidized food, expanded education access, supported healthcare, reduced some levels of poverty. In the early years, for a while, many Venezuelans experienced real improvement. But there were growing concerns. Economists warned the economy depended almost completely on oil productivity. In other sectors was shrinking. Corruption was rising. Political power was becoming more concentrated. Still, Chavez maintained strong support, especially among lower-income Venezuelans. Internationally, tensions continued. The United States saw Venezuela aligning with its geopolitical rivals. Venezuela accused the U.S. of interference and covert destabilization. The relationship was no longer simple economic cooperation. It was ideological conflict. And then a major turning point came. Hugo Chavez died in 2013. Part 5. Nicolas Maduro and the Deepening Crisis. After Chavez's death, his trusted ally, Nicolas Maduro, became president. But Maduro took power at the worst possible time. Oil prices collapsed globally. Venezuela's oil-dependent economy began to fall apart. Production slowed. Government revenue dropped dramatically. Debt increased. Corruption accusations intensified. Then came hyperinflation. Money lost its value. Prices changed daily, sometimes hourly. People could not afford basic food or medicine. Businesses closed. Hospitals lacked supplies. Jobs disappeared. Millions of Venezuelans faced hunger, poverty, and uncertainty. This economic collapse turned into one of the worst crises in modern Latin American history, and it would soon become an international crisis as well. Part 6. Sanctions and International Pressure. As Venezuela's political and economic situation worsened, the United States imposed sanctions. These sanctions targeted high-ranking officials, financial systems, oil companies, certain sectors of the Venezuelan economy. The U.S. government stated that sanctions were intended to pressure democratic reform, punish corruption, restrict power of government elites, prevent illegal financial activity. Many Western nations supported U.S. actions. Some Latin American governments agreed, but many people, including economists, humanitarian groups, and international observers, raised serious concerns. They argued that sanctions intensified the economic collapse, reduced access to resources, made life even harder for ordinary Venezuelans, deepened suffering. Meanwhile, Venezuela's government claimed the United States was intentionally trying to destroy Venezuela economically. Sanctions were a form of political warfare. Washington wanted to control Venezuelan oil. This became one of the most debated aspects of U.S.-Venezuela relations. And while governments argued, citizens paid the price. Part 7. The human crisis behind the politics, behind the speeches, behind every headline. Our people, ordinary Venezuelans, parents who could no longer buy food, children unable to find medicine, workers losing their jobs, families selling everything to survive, people waiting in long lines for basic supplies. As conditions worsened, millions of Venezuelans began leaving the country. They walked across borders. They traveled to neighboring nations. They searched for work, stability, and safety. This became one of the largest migration waves in modern Latin American history. Countries like Colombia, Peru, Chile, Brazil, Mexico, and the United States saw large increases in Venezuelan migrants. Some found opportunity. Others struggled in unfamiliar lands. Every migration story carried sadness, courage, and hope. This is not only a political crisis, it is a human crisis. Part 8. Political conflict and power struggles. Inside Venezuela, political conflict intensified. Opposition leaders challenged the government. Protests filled the streets. There were accusations of election irregularities. Tensions rose to dangerous levels. The United States openly supported certain opposition figures at various points. Some countries recognized opposition leadership instead of the Maduro government. Other nations, such as Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba, strongly supported Maduro. This transformed Venezuela's internal politics into a global power struggle. It wasn't just Venezuela versus Venezuela. It became United States versus Venezuela, Russia versus United States, China versus United States global politics versus national crisis. Meanwhile, negotiations were attempted, but repeatedly collapsed. Trust was low, pressure was high, and stability remained out of reach. Part 9. The oil question. Again, oil continues to define Venezuela's destiny. Despite possessing the world's largest oil reserves, Venezuela's oil production fell dramatically. Why? Lack of investment, infrastructure breakdown, sanctions blocking trade, mismanagement, political instability. This created a strange reality. A country with unimaginable natural wealth, struggling with extreme poverty. Global powers debate. Should sanctions be lifted? Should Venezuela regain full oil access? Who should control oil profits? Can production ever return to former strength? How will this affect global oil markets? For the United States, Venezuela represents both a political opponent and a strategic energy asset, which makes the future incredibly complicated. Part 10. Latin America and the global stage. The Venezuela-U.S. conflict does not affect only two countries. It affects Latin American politics, international alliances, refugee and migration policy, global oil markets, diplomatic strategy. Countries across Latin America are divided. Some support Venezuela's government, some oppose it, some remain cautious. Meanwhile, Russia supports Venezuela militarily and politically. China invests heavily economically. Iran cooperates in trade and technology. So Venezuela becomes more than a country. It becomes a battleground for influence, a symbol of resistance for some, a warning for others, a test of international power. Part 11. Security, crime, and social stability. With economic collapse comes social consequences. Crime increased in many areas. Security weakened. Illegal economies expanded. Borders became more vulnerable. Smuggling and trafficking grew. The U.S. government accused members of the Venezuelan leadership of involvement in corruption and criminal activity. The Venezuelan government denied these claims and accused the U.S. of propaganda. Once again, truth became political. Facts became debated, and trust disappeared. Part 12. Efforts at negotiation. Despite tension, there have been attempts at dialogue. Talks have occurred in places like Mexico, Norway, various international platforms. Some agreements were discussed, some progress was made, but lasting solutions remain difficult. Negotiations require political compromise, economic balance, international cooperation. Trust is still incredibly fragile. Part 13. Media, information, and narrative war. Another battlefield in this conflict is information. Different news sources tell different stories. Some highlight government corruption. Some highlight U.S. interference. Some focus on human suffering. Some focus on political power struggles. In a world of global media, social networks, and political bias, the truth often becomes layered, complex, and emotional. People around the world see Venezuela differently depending on where they live, what they watch, what they believe. This information war shapes public opinion, and public opinion shapes politics. Part 14. Today's reality. So where do things stand today? The relationship between the United States and Venezuela remains complicated, strategic, emotional, politically charged, and still evolving. There are moments of tension, moments of silence, occasional talks, ongoing disagreements. The future remains uncertain. Part 15. Possible futures. There are several possible paths forward. One possibility: gradual negotiation, partial normalization, improved dialogue, slow rebuilding of economic cooperation. Another possibility: continued tension, ongoing sanctions, persistent political division, international polarization. A third possibility: unexpected change, political shifts, leadership changes, new alliances. Whatever happens, the world will be watching, because the US-Venezuela relationship is not just bilateral. It shapes global energy, regional stability, geopolitical balance, human destiny. Final message beyond politics. When we step back from the politics, when we look beyond leaders, sanctions, speeches, and power, we see people, families, workers, children, communities, humans simply wanting stability, dignity, opportunity, and hope. The most important question is not which side is right. The most important question is, what future will Venezuelan people have? Will they see recovery? Will they return home? Will prosperity return? Will political peace ever be achieved? Time will tell. Until then, the story continues. This has been the complex, emotional, political, economic, human, and still unfolding relationship between the United States of America and Venezuela. Thank you for watching. If you found this documentary meaningful, remember to like, comment, and share your thoughts. And stay with us as history continues to unfold.